Now here on the Just Create SMP, over the last few days, I've been trying to get a mushroom off of my head, and finally I have figured out how. And what I have to do to achieve this? Honestly, nothing. It just sort of fell off. The only unfortunate part to this is now there's spores all around me, which is another problem in itself. But for my more technical peeps, later on I'll explain how these spores are actually functioning in the first place. But outside of all of that madness that is going on, the ultimate goal here was to make a mushroom factory that also turned out to become a library that also built itself and all kinds of other fun stuff. And now I am tasked with the way that this factory is going to interact with the landscape below it. And last episode, that's exactly what I did. I cleared this whole area out and I prepped it and prepped the landscape to be able to turn this into a shop. And a shop is exactly what I plan on putting here. A way that we can actually sell these mushrooms and make some profit potentially. Now that I've also added some custom functionality to, well, mushrooms, oh yeah, some things are really going to start popping off. Also, is my mushroom sporing as well? Oh boy. All right, so here's the sort of plan or idea for the way that I'm going to lay out at least the mushroom area. This right here is going to have a mushroom stem that comes down and sort of arches out and will connect to this area. I'll have it arch out and connect to this area, almost like it's like vines coming up, but it's going to be much, much thicker here at the base, which is going to be underneath. And then we'll have a mushroom stem sort of coming out here. The goal is to also have, well, some mushrooms that are layered out covering the roof. So what I'm thinking is right here in the center path area is where I can start my layout for, well, what is going to be this massive mushroom stem. Here's the thing. I am not the best at laying out all kinds of circles, but what I will do is I'm going to go out and mark roughly the shape that I want this to be. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe we'll go out to here. That seems kind of large. Actually, you know what? Maybe we'll go, yeah, this seems pretty good. But what I can do is I can use a macro here to help me sort of build out this shape and just kind of get a rough shape. And I think so long as I can get this rough shape, I can go back in and I can break all of these. It doesn't really matter. I can hand place them. I just need to understand how big this mushroom is going to need to be and how big the stem is going to need to be. And as you can see, I'm sort of trying to taper this off a little bit. I'll get there. It's already starting to come together. So this will then branch from here. And then kind of what I want it to do is sort of arch up a little bit. And then I want this to land right about into here, give or take. Yes. And we're going to have these stems that are arching up, and then I just got to thicken them up a bit. Oh yeah, already the rough shape is definitely starting to come together. Now hold up a minute, this is looking way better than it honestly should. So this whole thing extending out on top of these sections are going to contain the actual mushroom pieces. And there we go, sort of. There's a lot of mushrooms going on. I do need to get some lights, and I think the particles are going to do this really, really well. And then I've also want to figure out a way to potentially include some mushroom fins that run through, probably using some of these copycat blocks. For right now, though, I do want to cap some of the edges, and so utilizing some copycat stairs on the outer edge of some of these, I think this is gonna make it look so good. Yes, I mean this is definitely going to make this whole thing pop, and you can see that down here how it just raises the edge ever so slightly and separates that whole mushroom section, because I had to go through and underneath place all of these mushroom blocks. And by the way, I went through well over 27 stacks of mushroom blocks, like per major mushroom type. That was a lot. So I've started lining out a whole bunch of decoration pieces here, and I've capped out the bottom to make this look a little bit nicer. But what I'm most proud of is this right here. These copycat corner slices where I've made it look like the stems are sort of spinning around, and then also included little sections over here, little blips of mushrooms that are popping up. I also have to decorate by actually placing some mushrooms, something I want to do. But yeah, like little mushroom colonies that have popped up that are dotting the area. But the big thing is once we get the lighting all removed and we replace it with something very special here soon. But what I'm currently working on is those fins that I was talking about. On the white mushrooms here, I want to include these fins and possibly have some of these fins on some of the other ones. But yes, to do this, it's going to require a lot of placing of signs. And that's why I think I might just keep it to these like big white mushrooms. We'll see how this goes, but this is going to be a lot of placing of signs. Well, I've now got the fins in, which, I mean, pretty cool use of the pale oak, I would have to say. Over here, I think for these mushrooms, because I do want to add fins to this, I'm thinking for the brown mushrooms, we can use these spruce shafts and have these going this way, right? And so we can just have this trail along, and this should be pretty easy for me to place in because, yeah, it does allow me to scale like that, which is kind of nice. Also, the fact that I didn't know how easy these were to make. I guess at the start, I guess it gets you with the fact that it needs to be stripped, but still, like, what? These work as regular shafts, just like the andesite ones. This was looking pretty good, I have to say. So I got those lined in there, and now I'm thinking about using dark oak underneath the red mushrooms. Oh, it's gonna blend in so well, and I'm utilizing some hanging signs for this, going one block under the base. Oh, just a lot of sign placing today. Well, this has turned out really, really nice. The one thing though that is going to make this whole thing super pop, I think, is getting the lighting in. And this leads me into another discussion. I have added and modified a ton of different things for this mod pack, including adding the invisible lights. I haven't even talked about that yet. And yes, I added the invisible lights from vanilla Minecraft. Surprisingly, you can't use them in survival in like any way. So I had to do a lot of janky client-side tweaking in order to get these things working. I added recipes to be able to craft them. I also added downscale recipes to be able to craft all of the different light levels. But that's the easy part. The hard part was making sure that you could even see this in survival, because you normally in creative, you actually see the light bulb icon. But because we are here, I had to use Cube.js to be able to set the actual render box. So for one, you can actually click and interact with it, but also while holding it, I wanted you to be able to see where a light source was at, because by default, well, it's invisible, of course. And so particles get emitted, and you can also, while hold it, break it, which is another thing that you're just not able to do in normal survival. You can place them down, but you don't know where they're placed after that. Like, it just doesn't render anymore for some strange reason. But we have these tools available to us, and I wanted this to be something that we could do so that way we can add our own lights. And I mean, they're already in the game, so what's the point of making custom items and things like that when you should just be able to use the things that exist? I've made a few more of these, and then now it's time to take most of this down and replace it all with invisible light sources. Oh, it's gonna look so good. And we can like place these pretty much anywhere, right? So like if I want this in this corner, I can just place it there. And like I said, you don't see them unless you're holding the item. And then you also need to be kind of near where it's placed. And so long as you're near where it's placed, the particles will then be emitted. Oh, it's so good. I know, pat myself on the back. I feel so good about this one. The majority of the lights taken out, we can really start to see how this whole thing is going to play out. And allow me to customize the lights, which I'm setting it to 14, which is the same light level, by the way, that you get out of a regular torch. I gotta watch out for these creepers. They're gonna blow the mushrooms up, and that would be really annoying. Man, having invisible lights this season, it looks so good. Now, there is something, though, that we are definitely missing. And remember, this is going to be the shop area. And I think particles. Like, if I could get spore particles filling this area, that would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? You know, maybe particles similar to this one right here. Well, I've actually written some JavaScript for Cube.js that allows me to add some extra functionality to some lecterns. So I've also automated lecterns now, which I think is a really cool thing to have. But I have a lot of explaining to do. See, as of right now, everyone on the server is going to have access to this. I don't know if I'm going to make this public or not. I'm still debating because it does have some vulnerabilities, so it does require some trust in order to use. But essentially, what we now have the ability to do is to include particles by placing a book into a lectern, shift right-clicking with an amethyst shard, and then we can copy all of these formats. So I set it up so that way we can see all of the different variables. And so all I have to do is paste these in and continue building a book. For example, this one down here actually has a lectern that is underneath, and inside I have all of these individual settings that I can just simply copy and then bring it into this over here. And so I can just simply paste this in, and this is almost ready to go. All I have to do now is shift right click. And by doing that, I have now activated particles, which are now spawning above 6 blocks, basically above the position of the lectern. And by the way, we can use just about any particle. As of right now, I'm working on adding functionality for more, because there are some that require some very specific color formatting. Yeah, weird things like that. But another interesting feature that I added is for the particles to be able to follow players and disregard that the lectern's position exists. And the only thing we need to do there is by including the variable player and then the person's name. For example, ChosenArchitect. And yes, I can apply this to anyone on the server. So there may be some infections that might happen to those players who have used my mushrooms. But anyways, that's for future video stuff. As you can see, this is sending the fireflies that are doing the particles that you see on me, which is the spores being released. But yeah, that was a fun little project I was able to put together in about 4 hours, give or take. And now we have it on the server, and it's all running on the server's end, giving us more functionality to our lectern. And by the way, they can be toggled on and off. Look at that. And so now the lectern is no longer emitting particles and nothing is happening. Fireflies just happen to stick around longer. Something that is pretty cool is I set this up so that way it can be dynamic. So flame, we can set it to a flame particle, and then I can have this activated, and notice it is doing the flame particles now and emitting every 20 ticks. But I can set this to every tick like this, and notice it's going to dynamically adjust. And then I can go through here and I can change the volume. I can set this to like 2.5 to put it like lower. And you notice it just adjusts and does all of that stuff on the fly, which is so good. We can set our delta to increase our volume to a 1 by 1 by 1. And this is going to expand out. There's so many possibilities, and we now have access to this. Particle emitter. Yes, I had a lot of fun making this. So now here's going to be my first plan. I want the underside of this stem to have this like mycelium that is sort of spread out in an area around this. And I want this mycelium to take up this volume and almost look like there's these little particles that are coming up out of the ground, specifically around the root area. So we can utilize this mycelium effect, make it within a 5 by 5 bound, and then give it 1/2 block kind of sticking up. So that way it should linger just slightly above the ground. I then need to shift right click to activate that. And we should start to see the particles. These are going to be very, very minimal. especially if I have my particle count turned down. So let's set this to 100 to be able to see this more clearly. Aha, notice, yes, these are now visible. After a little bit of tinkering, I think I've gotten it to be exactly where I want it, just kind of lingering here. It may even be hard to see on the video. Now this may be subtle, but I think it's so nice and perfect fitting here. So I've used the particle white ash, and I have this particle count pretty low, and it's just here to sort of look like spores are floating around, and I've got to put one below each of these big caps. With all of these particles set up, I mean, this just gives off a much better vibe. We have the particles that are coming from the actual tops of the mushroom. We have particles that kind of look like dust that are sprawled about. For example, the in-rod particle. And then I also have some fireflies that are floating around, which also simulate just sort of free-floating dust, which I absolutely love. You know what? Some actual firefly bushes? Oh man, that would actually look really good in there. Particles laid in, I think it's now time for me to set up the actual mushroom shop. To make this shop, we just need to connect into the main network over here that is linked to all of our storages. Then I think right here is going to be a good place for the stock ticker. It's going to give me space underneath since we have a lot of empty space to handle any of the diamonds that we're going to potentially produce from this. But now I've got to get the actual stock or shopkeeper. And so I plan on using an iron golem for this. So there we go. We now have hired help, which is going to be perfect. And we can place leads on this, which means we should be able to place him here. Oh boy. Yep, this is a bit of a problem. You know what? I wonder if I break this, I can save him. Okay, so he's still good. And we're going to have to move this guy out a little bit and I guess build a little area for him. Interesting. All we have to do, though, I believe, is re-link this because it's no longer linked. You know what? This might even be a better situation here if I could actually place this in, which it looks like these have to be placed in before we place the iron golem because of how large the iron golem actually is. But now that we have that in, you can see, we can now see all of our items. On the receiving end, a barrel, which will go right here, and then we'll have a packager, and then we do need a frog connected to this packager, so we actually need this to be technically one block lower. So barrel there, that way our frog can be tapped into here. And we just have to give this a very special name. For example, Mushroom Shop is going to be the name of our frog right here. And that means this is going to have to be addressed to Mushroom Shop. Then I want to make sure to drop the items onto the player after they've purchased them. I've got myself a little bit of an area set up so that way I can also include another counter. I would love to count how many cells happen from here. So I do need to get some more Nixie tubes and also get that redstone set up, which we'll do here in a second. But I think now we should put the stalls in. So we have our guy here. So long as we have this, we should be good. I am going to be selling the blocks sort of in this stall format here. So the goal is to, for example, have the white blocks be contained within the white tablecloth. And then over here, we're going to have red mushrooms and so on and so forth. So I've got to take these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be selling the mushroom stems, and I think I'm going to do it quite generous. 256, I think, for one diamond. It's like 4 stacks, right? Which I think is pretty good for right now. So I'm going to go with that for the base. And then I think 2 stacks of bone blocks potentially would be a good idea for a diamond for this. So I'm going to configure that. And it configures them all. But yes, that is going to be the white mushroom blocks. And then I'm going to take and do 2 stacks for 1 diamond for the bone blocks. For the red mushrooms, 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks for the red mushrooms themselves. And then for the actual mushrooms, I'm also going to do 4 stacks of regular mushrooms. This is going to also equal a diamond. That is going to be housed under the red mushroom, which I think is incredibly fitting. So we'll have the mushroom block and then we'll have the red mushrooms, and then do the exact same thing for the brown mushroom and also the brown mushroom. And that's going to get housed under the brown mushroom, of course. Now I also want to sell bookshelves and books over here. And I think this is going to be a great place to get sort of whimsical with having a tower over here, keeping things magical, of bookshelves. So I've got this whole thing sort of filled out. And I'm going to build this pretty large tower of bookshelves that are going to demonstrate like the different ways that you can kind of decorate with them, I guess. Yes, this is very, very whimsical. I don't know what it is, but there is just something sort of uncanny valley creepy about just seeing piles of bookshelves in this sort of form. I don't know, it's very backroom feely also. But anyways, I now have books, 128 for a diamond. We're gonna do those. These are pretty easy for me to craft. Regular bookshelf, 64 for a diamond. I think that's going to be perfect. And then lectern, I'm going to sell 16 at a time because they are going to be the core component of this. They are used for decoration, but you could also buy these and technically make it. This is just to avoid the crafting. But now technically for all of these shops, all I have to do is add the diamond. The shop is almost ready to go. There is one more thing I want to include into this build. Just like our mall, I want to track how many orders are going to take place in this area. And this is a really fun statistic to be able to track since we don't really have any other way as of right now. So essentially, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. We are going to have a chute and we need this chute to lead down. So we'll make sure that sends diamonds out. And then that is just going to go directly into another chute. Yeah, lots of chutes going on, which is going to lead into an item vault. So for right now, I'm just going to place a block here and then lay out my item vault, which is just going to extend right here for now. Then I can go in and actually place this funnel. So the item's going to drop from here into this funnel and the items are going to be stored in here. What I need to do is count how many times a singular item gets passed through this andesite funnel. To be able to do that, we can just count it with this smart observer. And the next thing we need to do is place down a redstone link. I want to get this programmed for right now to like an axe that we currently have and also the mushroom. And then we'll do the exact same thing to this one down here, which is going to be the axe and the mushroom. I think I have it defined in what slot? Okay, red is going to be the axe and then the mushroom in the blue. And then what we need to do with that linked up correctly, we'll turn this one into a receive, which I don't think we can see because of it being inside the mushroom, but we are going to know it's a receive if our counter gauge is going to be set up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and link the display link also, and we can get this placed in right here. And then I'm going to place in my gauge. So this gauge, we just need to add the connection to the redstone. You can see redstone to the counter because there's an arrow. And then we're going to add what this is going to send. And we add that connection here. So then we can pop into this, leave it under shortened. And this is going to start counting those redstone pulses when we buy something. So almost immediately this should work so long as we make an order. And that goes for any order, right? So if I order some red mushrooms over here, and then I actually purchase those mushrooms, that diamond goes in, it should be counted, and it should have pulled it out of there, gone into the vault, which it did. It should have performed an update, but it did not. And I'm wondering if it's because the smart observer didn't send a redstone signal through this block. So that is kind of a problem. I mean, to fix this, we'll try again. I'm going to copy the settings and then paste this over here. And then I'll just remove this one. I mean, I thought it was going to pass the redstone into the block and then into the link, but I may have to just connect it directly. I'm hoping I don't have to do it any other way. We may have to lower it if that's the case, but I'll just perform another purchase here. I'm just slowly running out of space. So again, I'm going to try and purchase something and then... Aha, there we go. That sent the redstone, that counted the purchase, and now we have the diamonds being counted, or the orders being counted. To make this a little bit easier to manage, I am going to drop the chute down one so we have an item vault, because any of these diamonds that we get received here, I want to actually take them from this and send them back into our main storage. This process is going to be just like any of our other packaging scenarios. So we'll have a packager that's on here. We have a frog that is linked to our chain conveyor, and this is going to be a send frog. And then we just have to place a sign on here that is addressed to our main storage. So this bad boy all the way over here is going to be what we need to technically name it. So where is our import? Right here, storage main. That is the one that sends into the barrel. But this right here, storage main in, is what we need to put on a sign. Then back here, I have my storage on the sign, which is going to address the package. And then I have this running on a pulse timer every 1 minute. So that way it's not to interrupt people if they're over here purchasing something. I don't really want this to trigger like a whole bunch of packages because it's sending one at a time. Now, the one other thing left to do is to give it a little sound design. So we're going to take some redstone, send that through with a 2-tick timer. And so this is going to make the sound like that with bone blocks underneath to give it a xylophone sound, which is going to proc, by the way, right underneath where the purchase station is. Then I think the only thing left to do is to reset our gauge just like that. Make sure that is included in and added, and then that should reset the one after it does make its first adjustment. And perfect, it's now setting at 0, waiting for the first customer. Now I did include a little sneaky area over here. If I actually go down to a small size, I left a little access hole back here, just big enough for me to enter in while I'm in the small size. See, this is where there is some function to this, you know, a reason to be able to get small. So instead of having a trap door, I can pop down in here, or if anybody sneaks around, they can definitely find this if they go down and shrink to be able to see how the whole system functions. After all of this, I feel like this is almost a shop wrap up. I mean, all I have to do now is lock the network and this shop is good to go. Now, remember that throw-off event? Yes, the first annual throw-off event where I am tasked with finding a interesting way to off throw lash. Well, I did sign up for this thing, and tomorrow is quote-unquote technically the day that this is due. That doesn't mean it's last minute, because I have been planning this all along. So after gathering a few supplies, let's build this thing. And the way that this is going to work is by utilizing mechanical saws. Now, hear me out. It's not just the mechanical saws, it's actually a trap. As what I need to do is I need to have saws that are placed all around, much like this, basically in a 3x3. And then what I want to do is around this, I want to place in any block. Girders are going to work in my case. Then on the outer side, we want even more saws until I have built up a saw cube. And again, on the sides, what I want to do is place these and just essentially fill them all in. Then we need to make sure on the top that we have our saws placed in and rotated in the correct direction. And thankfully, this placing mechanic is going to make this actually work. Now, with us inside this horrible place, I am going to need to make my way out. And so we're left with a cube just like this of saws. But now here's where things get interesting. We are going to glue this entire thing together. So let me grab some glue. I'm going to click this corner, and this is how easy this thing is to put together. We're gluing the entire thing together so it is a solid glued cube. And then this is where the magic happens. I need to get a mechanical bearing right here. But the problem with the mechanical bearing is you can't actually glue it to a contraption. Or can you? While this technically shouldn't be possible, it is possible by exploiting just a weird mechanic of Create. By extending out a glue piece here and breaking the thing that exists and then placing the bearing in, well, we can essentially bypass that. And this can now spin this contraption while being technically glued to it, as weird as that may sound. So at this point, I can actually rotate it, even though it's technically glued to it. But here's where things get even crazier. If I was to spin this at that speed, it is honestly too fast. And in my testing, whenever I was testing this out in a creative world, by having, well, a deployer rotate this for me, I was able to escape. But I did find there is an optimal RPM. So let's just assume that right here is where our cart contraption is going to go. And then I'll just simply take a cart assembler and place that on the bottom like this. Place the cart in, and now we can start to play around with where we can put things. For example, I need a rotational speed controller. And so if I place a rotational speed controller here, we notice, well, it's not actually where I kind of want it. So let's rotate it so that way we can put the large cog here. And this, oh, I don't want to glue. We want the large cog here connected to the rotational speed controller, and then the hand crank on the side, and setting it to 16 RPM spins it a bit slower. And this speed right here, in my testing, was the perfect combination of speed and also like damage potential. And now here's something that's even crazier. I can glue this to this. And so the whole thing now becomes a cart contraption that I can rotate after placing it down. And this is where, in my opinion, this thing becomes incredibly overpowered. So if I lift this up, notice the entire thing can be picked up, and yeah, I can just take it out with me and place it anywhere I want it. So now that I have it built, let's kind of give it a simple test. So we can use an armor stand to simulate a player for right now. And let's just say we have that armor stand placed down right here. I need to kind of have a rough estimate because I only have, because of its size, currently a 3-block area to work with, but you could technically make this thing larger, I do believe, and I think it would work just fine. But all I'm going to need in order for this to function and to get it up and running is to quickly place this down, and then immediately start rotating this. And inside here, you should see that the armor stand is in there and it's being rotated around. Like, it is trapped inside here. Notice that. Look at that right there. So that is perfect and exactly the way that I plan on deploying this. The scary part is while it's in rotation mode, the player is locked inside here and should not be able to escape because of the hitbox of the contraption. Now, if it was a standalone contraption and wasn't moving, it would be a little easier to escape because there are some ways to get out of a contraption. But with this dealing damage and knocking you back constantly, and specifically at this rotation speed, you're kind of locked in there. Or at least I was in testing, even in knockback resistant gear like netherite. But now I think there is a real test here. Okay, Silent is online at the moment and has agreed to accept my challenge in testing this thing out. And if anybody is going to be resistant to this trap, well, it's going to be Silent. What in the beautiful automation is this?
Hello there.
Sorry, I was admiring the beautiful automation going on here. This line just keeps...
I'm streaming.
It keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I have a thing to test on you.
You have a thing to test on me?
Yes.
Should I be scared?
You need to be in full gear, like fully exposed. Yes. Ah, yes. That's going to be perfect. Okay.
Are you just going to like hand crank me to death, or what's happening?
Yes, I am going to hand crank you to death. Quite literally. Just whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay. Let's do it.
Not exactly.
Oh yeah, okay, just Saul's. What? Okay, this is the trippiest thing I've ever seen. What is happening?
And so, yes, it just will keep going.
Fly out of it.
Oh, you got out of it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
It must be a server thing.
It really throws you for a loop because you think you're spinning, but the room is spinning.
Here's something I want to try. Okay, so let's try this again. I want to see if I can get it to where you don't get thrown out of it. So the goal was like, it would be really quick to like pop it in. Is this rotation speed better at being anti-escape proof? I always feel like the slower the better. It's the corners that like let you escape. Oh, ender pearling out would probably let you escape.
Yeah, ender pearls definitely works really well.
Was this one, was 12 a little bit harder to escape from?
I couldn't really tell. I just ender pearled out.
Okay, without ender pearling out.
Without ender pearling, I'll try. I'll try and be a good person. I'm just standing still at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that it will damage you.
Yeah, I've lost 2-3 hearts.
If you eat, then it will go.
Yeah, it's hard to eat because you can't click on anything.
Oh shoot! So okay, that would be great.
Yeah. Now I'm at 2.5.
Oh boy.
Now I'm at 1.5. Okay, stop. I ender pearled out and died from it.
I got it. Oh, that's great. Hold on.
Geez.
That's fantastic. Does it not give you the head?
No, because I died myself, I guess. Well, that's my 6th death on the server.
But unfortunately, it doesn't give a player kill. So it wouldn't drop their head. So that would mean that when they come back, they would be easy pickings.
Yeah, that's true. They would have to come back for their stuff.
Yeah, and then I would be able to get their head. So if they were being a little hard-headed about it. Like I could still get it.
I wonder if you could put down beds around the outside of it so that they set their spawn right inside of it or something.
Ooh, that would be evil.
I'm gonna hit you for wrench.
Yeah, let me get my stuff. Let me get my stuff. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, I'm hard to hit now, aren't I?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, you can't fight back.
Wait.
It's short now.
No. Well, you know what? I think that went very well, and it seemed like it did actually work, and I think it is going to be able to take out Throwlash. And yes, that was a whole lot of fun, and I can't believe I managed to actually kill Silent. You think I actually did that, right? Yeah. Okay, so long as we agree. Oh, but I can't wait to actually see what the judges say. Like, I don't know, maybe I did actually make something really cool. Maybe I didn't. Who knows? But today I think was quite awesome. I got some awesome particles, all kinds of fun stuff, and look at this area. Oh, absolutely amazing. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and you learned something new, whether it's with the shop or anything else we've set up, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also give this video a huge thumbs up. And don't forget to comment down below. What do you think we should work on potentially next? I would love to hear from you down in the comments. And guys, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. And without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter that made this episode even possible. And that amazing things is going to go out to Lone. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. Thank you so very much. And guys, I plan on seeing you all in either the comment section or the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.